Dominic Dafoe with Nightwolfs Major 40K, where he actually came out with the Undefeated Tactical Brigade list. They were using ITC scoring, so he did have a draw, but still ended up #1 on top. So that's pretty awesome. We're actually going to go over what his actual path to victory was. But let me go over this list anyways. And actually, oh, thank you for reminding me because I don't have my Big Mek around here. So I'm putting the poll up. That was on me. That was on me. Thank you, Arcane, with my boy. So yes, you guys should be able to see the poll up now. Now let's go over his list. We have a Big Mek and Mega Armor with the Mek Captain. GW trying to keep it down, but it's always coming around. Love to see it. Really the backbone of this attachment. I've never, ever seen this detachment perform at any high level without having that combo. Even diminish like a 5-man unit, couldn't see it, wouldn't recommend it. Make it work with the 10 Gitz. We have triple Big Mek with Shokk Attack Guns. So though GW tried to keep that down, it's still around. Crazy to see that it has just automatically 3 goings. Now we have seen people substitute for the Big Mek, but there's just something about the absolutely 4 AP that makes it do what it do. And then when you get the pulsar rockets on there, which you're going to see from what we can look forward to the future, is amazing. And in Overwatch, when we see them, if they're possibly played with Lootas, right? So it has a different utility depending on which one they're leading based off those 2 units. We have 3 5-man units of Storm Boys, kind of about a lot, to be honest. We do see people bring 1, 2, even this attachment, though it has the ability to be picked up and placed back on the field, the fact that they're battle line, so they get a little bit more dynamic secondary play. And they have strats, give themselves more OC. They can take orders, of course, as well, though there's not really anyone on here that's really looking to give them orders anyways. Nonetheless, the Storm Boys had fallen out of play, but as we look through the rest of his tools, you can see what he's trying to pull off with the theme and the speed, which I really like, because typically what's annoying about Tactical Brigade is you're just playing with a couple big combination of character-led units in trucks, and then everything else is just, well, I hope I move up the field and take some positions and shoot you. Otherwise, I'm just in my trucks and I get popped and killed. In this way, he's playing the early game, secondary game, tying people up, getting in little skirmish fights, as we also look to see that he has 3-man units of Def Copters for more fly keyword, which is typically Orks just lack. So he brought the only things that really have it. Of course, we have our planes and such, right? Don't heckle me on that. I'm saying for the units that have Deep Strike and Fly, these are the 2 units that have it. So I like the actual mobility that he's put onto this field, and being able to stick both these units into these little skirmish fights or secondary player, corner player, early game skirmishes, going for early game objectives, board control. The fact that they go together and they kind of prefer different targets and are good at different things is nice duo, going on there. So I like that flying combos. 1 big 10-man unit Flash Gitz, like we said, a big 22-man unit of Gretchin. That's really just to screen your entire backfield. People will use it so you can have dead card draws on Call the Horde. People swear by it all the time. It's something we've seen on this channel several times. So don't knock it till you try it. I personally do like multiple for the games that don't have me, need to screen the entire time. But I've also heard where people go, well, once the card is drawn and they cycle it, now I move that unit up the field and I have this big mob to just play late game. It's kind of funny too. Another 2 11-man units of Gretchin, 1 brick of Kommandos. Now he did have the Breacher Ram, the Burna, and the Power Claw as the special weapons that he had on there. Of course, those are like the only ones I really recommend, to be honest. Love my Mandos because now he has this flying, he has this infiltrate. Now he actually has space for getting these trucks where he wants them to be safely for staging and getting the proper lines of fire that they want to have. Just creating that space, like we always talk about when you're an Ork player. You got to create that space for yourself. Never let people take the initiative from you, which is what all this flag keyword and infiltration is allowing you to do. And so Mandos lead the way, baby. 2 10-man units of Lootas. So though it's always theoretical that Tactical Brigade would bring this and people talk about it a lot, it's really not that common. Really not that common, guys, right? We show this a lot. We talk about it. I bring it on the Tactical Brigade videos on people you've seen on another list that have performed. Very uncommon in this time of day, especially. I don't know why I have it as I have it as an oxymoron how it's written on there, because I have it as 50 points but it's actually 10-man units. So they are 10-man units, I was going to say. So it's 115 points. I don't know how I ugly fat fingered that, but it's 115 points now for a 10-man unit of Lootas. Goodness, that 15-point tax that GW put on that unit really made them out of taste for a lot of Ork players. They lack AP. They have horrible ballistic skill, but really what it comes down to is the fact that the Lootas, depending on the matchup, right? Sometimes you need more shots, don't use much anti-tank. People already have a lot of invuls in play, whatever it may be. 1 Shokk Attack Gun with the Luda unit gives you a solid Overwatch unit in a different way once you still have your Flash Gitz as well, that people kind of still consider nicely. So yes, they can do it to a unit that's in an objective, and you're allowing them to re-roll the hit, and the Shokk Attack Gun will do a lot of the damage in that way, to kind of spread the anti-tank around the battlefield. But the fact that it's usually strength 9 still only, and it doesn't have access to lethal or sustain like you would in Dread Mob, means that it really does come down to being theoretically a more of anti-infantry kind of profile that you're using it for, or just kind of light vehicles. So a lot of the time you are going to put it on the tank buster units, but Luda's just having those long angles of fire themselves onto objectives could also be the reason why I was a play. So this was interesting to see. Custom Mega Blasters on those was what I put on there, but it's actually rockets. I don't know, I messed the slide, guys. Sorry, I was too going hard with looking at all my notes. But we have the three-man, six-man units of Tankbustas with the 2 rocket pistols and the pulsar rocket. Yeah, he actually did have 2 rocket pistols. Still spamming it. Art of War is still gonna hate to see it, but our boy Dominic still brought it out to play. So let's actually look into his matchups, because his path to victory always matters. Another thing to check out is our sponsor, the Baron of Dice. They make high quality custom dice. If you enjoy our content and want to show some love, check out the Baron of Dice custom dice, including WAAAGH Tactics official dice. To support us, use our discount code in the description for 5% off, because nobody likes taxes. So as you can see here, oops, I clicked too excitedly. Started with the dub perfect, then he had the draw, and then finished off with more wins. So let's take a look at what he actually had to go into. The list is how many rockets are you bringing? Let me see what he says. Is that what he said for his list? No, he didn't actually name his list, but that's a good name for his list. So let's take a look at his first matchup. Yeah, people will say we got more dakka, which was Astra Militarum with the Hammer of the Emperor. So he has Canadian. Why do I always do that when I'm excited? Cadian Command Squad, Lord Solar Leontis, and 1 Rogaldorn Commander. Only one. 1 unit of Cadian Shock, 2 Toraxes, 3 artillery crews with siege cannons, 2 units of Kazarkin, followed by a Lehman Russ Exterminator, 1 unit of Ratlings, followed by 2 more Rogaldorn battle tanks, and Scout Sentinels. When you really give just kind of, he doesn't really have a variety of things I want to pop with my tank busters. Really, it just comes down to when is it time to get off on those Rogaldorn commanders. And this is one of those cases where those auto cannon, Luda cannons can actually deal with Toraxes for being low armor. Coming off field from reserve sometimes even to get those lines of fire, because as you can see with our Gitz list, he didn't necessarily have a lot of trucks. He had 1 truck, and I'm personally, not that I could ask to get, but I personally subject to believe that he absolutely every single game put the Big Mek and Mega Armor in that unit with the 10 Flash Gitz, because it's such a huge profile like unit to fit on the field, right? So a lot of the time you're just going to use it, maybe have like a mobile firing bunker, and then jump out and do your thing when it's time to do it. There could be times where people have and you let it be on the field early game, but just generally speaking, except for exceptions, that's why the truck's probably there, because unless you played it with those giant bases, you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. As for everything else on here, this is where we were talking about having the speed to pull people out into fights, because Def Copters don't necessarily just fall over. They have their rockets. They have a nice boatload of attacks, about 6 at strength 5. And so they can end up getting into these Kazarkins alongside the Storm Boys. And then even if a couple of the Storm Boys stay alive, they can give themselves more OC. So I actually like to see that. A lot of dakka coming into play, but good job for taking out Astra Militarum with the big W. I think that's just because your tank bosses are going to get the initiative off on those Rogaldorns. They have to come out at some point because you're going to win all the skirmishes between the Def Coptas, the Lutas, and the Storm Boys into just that multitude of trash that they had about to play. Then we have his second game. I don't know why I said third. Too excited. What's up, you kids? Canadian shock troopers, always so kind when attacking, right? That's a good way to put it. Then we go into the second game, which was into the Space Wolves. So we had an Iron Priest, Lieutenant with combi weapons, Logan Grimnar, Ragnar Blackmane, Wolfguard battle leaders, 2 of them, and then 1 Wolf Priest, 1 10-man unit of Blood Claws, 1 5-man unit of Fenrisian Wolves, 2 units of Gladiator Lancers, 1 Infiltrator Squad, 1 Scout, 2 3-man units of Thunderwolf Cavalry, followed by 2 of the Wolfguard Head Takers, and then 1 big 10-man unit of Wolfen with Storm Shields. it's really interesting to see how this game would actually go out to see to play, because of the fact that all of these things are absolutely blending anything they get in the fight in. So typically you're like, well, you know, the Death Copters and the Storm Boys can come out and kind of get into a little skirmish. This one unit of Thunderwolf Cavalry has a great time if it just gets into a fight. Generally speaking, it assumes into Death Copters if it gets a charge off. So this is one of those cases where, well, now we're actually getting into trades which are actually quite difficult. Our firepower is better because these Lancers are going to be feel somewhat useless. I mean, they can pop the truck, so of course you can get charged from, you know, once they force you to disembark. But nonetheless, the fact that they're mobile gun platforms, take off on the Lancers, not getting good trades in the time they get kind of exposed, and then Tankbustas try to pick everything else up. This would get a really tradesy, hold your horses with the commandos, push everything up the field, get the long firing lanes, force them to fight through your mandos and some of your other early screens, shoot away them, and then declare your wall, shoot, charge into them, and kind of try to push them back. Because right now with how Space Wolves, everything can absolutely blend you with how soft Orks are, and they have kind of good cheap trades. They have invuls all over the place from the Wolfen and the actual Storm Guard. So here we Storm Guard, Wolf Guard. So here we go with a nice draw, solid draw. Nothing to sneeze at. Great job there, though. Their Space Wolves are looking absolutely strong right now based off the pilot too. Be a cunning it and check out our new order markers that are in our store. So shout out to you Gitz being cunning. Help you guys get all the orders set on the table, nice and clean for all you Gitz to get stuck in. Then we have World Eaters as his third matchup. We had one Demon Prince of Corn. Then he has the Helm of Brazen Fire. Pretty sure that's reduced damage one. Then we have Karn the Betrayer. Then Lord Juggernaut. One big brick of Corn Berserkers. Ooh, okay. This is actually quite potent, you guys. If you haven't played against this or heard about this unit actually goes off. So you can get access to sustain, can access to lethal. It has actually, based off from what I understand, see how it has the Cornite Eviscerators. This is essentially their version of Power Claws. So they actually have what would be 4 Power Claws in their 120-man mob. Not to mention that if they have someone like Karn leading the unit, for example, they get a bunch of other abilities that they also get to get off on that I'm losing. They get Lance potentially as a strat as well. Then if you actually go into them, they can reduce damage by 1 in combat. So this would be and they have a Blood Surge as well. So if you shoot them with a Tankbuster unit, they can Blood Surge into you, but then they can actually force it to be a certain value of a Blood Surge, so it's more reliable. So this would very much be about keeping, which is why you actually want those Death Copters. So the fact that he has this Corn Zerker unit, this thing will absolutely blend just about anything, and he's willing to lose, 11 of these models and still have the multiple Cornite Eviscerators plus the character just really ready to play. So he can lose 14 of these dudes anyways and still be absolutely fine. 15, whatever. And as long as he has these Eviscerators and the main character leading them, and it might be 2 characters. What else? No, he doesn't have 2 in this case. Maybe Juggernaut, but I know he could only have another one. What is it called? Executioner, whatever. So pretty interesting to see. But then he also has another unit of Corn Berserkers. So he's bringing all the chainsaws and listening. 1 Chaos Rhino, followed by 2 Chaos Spawn. Really good trades here, right? So these could actually mess up some Death Copters too. The fact that these guys can also pull off a lancing maneuver and giving themselves additional AP, so they can end up kind of getting that fight off. Now, there's a chance that your Death Copters get off on them first. With the rockets, you can just pick them up too. So pretty cool. 3 units of Forge Fiends. These guys did get changed, so I guess they don't at least do that in Overwatch, but they get to like reroll the whole hit roll has to be the real actual nearest target to them, not just because Overwatch, from what I understand, but still very potent platforms, strength 10, -3 damage. Hellbrute. Now these double Hellbrutes, it's funny that he actually has this kind of list, not in the normal meta version of World Eaters, but still familiar with it. 2 Hellbrutes. These guys have the continuous, just think about it, a continuous fight capability where they fight you. Hypothetically speaking, let's say he charged you. Hellbrute charges you. He kills your unit, or let's say he doesn't. So Hellbrute charges your unit. He doesn't kill your whole unit. Your unit slaps him back. He gets to activate and fight again. Then he will be able to consolidate. Which in the Space Wolf, he can consolidate 6. So then he would consolidate into your next Ork unit. That Ork unit would slap him because now we're in combat. I have to punch you. And the Hellbrute would activate again and punch him again. And if he killed that unit, hypothetically speaking, and he consolidated again into another unit, then he would have to continue the process until that unit either didn't get killed, so he stops fighting, or he just is out of range. So this can get out of hand as well with bad positioning, which is why we're going to talk about all the flying units that he has on this list. So I can see all these flying units being quite valuable. And in the case of, well, I can't let these big bricks of Zerkers get off on me. I can't let these Hellbrews really close the distance come in with reserves on me. Sometimes they still will and just attempt a 9-inch charge, so you have to be aware of that as well. And then followed by 2 units of Jackals. So even though I just said all that, 14, big W on that. Once you do keep that space, they don't really have anything else to do. Now, the Forge Fiends can sometimes just ride the invul and not get killed by Tankbustas. But typically you're going to kill them. So typically going to kill them. And luckily for you, you have all the Lootas for those units of Corn Zerkers that are on objectives, or the Jackals, whatever it may be. And he's not going to spend his more Forge Fiends necessarily trying to shoot at them. They don't have the range for the Lootas like that. So the Lootas kind of can have their way to play depending on the layout. So again, maybe those Lootas could have really been the secret tech right there. Could have really been the secret tech. Then we go into second to last game. We have Tyranids. Is this the hunting grounds? No, sorry. I don't know why I said that. That was a Vanguard Onslaught. Okay. So we have Death Leaper, triple Broodlord. Okay, I think we know what he's doing here. And then he has those 2 units of those hyper adaptive Raveners, Winged Hive Tyrant, another Winged Tyranid Prime, Hormigons, Biovore, triple 5-man units of Gene Stealers, Lictor, 2 Neurolictors, 3 units of Raveners, and then a big old brick of Bio Melee Weapon Warriors. So the Bio Melee Weapon Warriors, they can get up, from what I understand, because they're Synapse, and they're always Synapse because they are Synapse themselves. And then they have Twin Link. They get access to Sustain, and because of their boy over here, where's he at? The Wing Prime, and then he allows them to reroll 1s, I think, as well. So they can crumb with volume of punches and -2 AP. So they're like their version of punching and beating you up. Then he's gonna really try to just hem you in with all these Brood Lords, charge you in with the Gene Stealers, and do dev wounds on you. So again, utilizing your screens. Now you see he does have trash between the Mandos. If he allowed to deploy the Mandos first before this enemy infiltrators, he can keep those infiltrators away, so the Stealers can't necessarily just freely move up and get easy charges up on the trucks. And this might also be one of those games where you allow the Flash Gitz to be out game 1 or turn 1, because he doesn't have the typical, let's say, long range fighting shooting exocrines, for example. And whatever minor shooting he might have that I'm overlooking here, you have the 4-up invul to ride it. So you're going to ride it, whatever. Nonetheless, that's where you can have the Flash Gitz on the table, doing an Overwatch, then maybe even pulling off a charge, maybe even pulling off a heroic intervention if you're cagey enough, or just using the Mandos to keep them off you. 13, so easier said than done, 13-point win. Mission is dependent, terrain is dependent, but you do have the tools. You just got to will them away. And then, of course, a bad Shadow of the Warp. You don't get to use your strats. Can have a flat face wall, turn off all your primary. That kind of messes with scores. It's happened with me with Tyranid games as well with Orks. So it just be that way. But I'm sure that went solid. So with the W, 13-point win. Then we move into his last game, which was into the Dark Angel, where it was the Wrath of the Rock. Asriel Librarian, Lieutenant with combi weapon, and then Lionel Johnson. 2 units of Deathwing Knights, followed by 2 units of Gladiator Lancers, Infiltrators, 2 bricks of the Inner Circle Companions, Invader ATV, and then a unit of Scout. Tactical Brigades likes to see this. You're trying to play Hero Hammer out with them, hammer it out with them. The fact that they have the Tankbusters that are going to be fine. Just, hey, we're just going to take these. We're just going to take these shots all day. You don't have really enough firepower to keep them necessarily scared or respected. Lancers are, like we said, possibly just going to disembark them, and you still have the Flash Gitz that can just pull out and just get into fights, shooting into Inner Circle Companions, getting stuck in with them. And this, remember, as long as you create space for the Deathwing, don't create space for the Deathwing Knights to come out and drop necessarily wherever they want, make them drop on the edges of the battlefield. That could be a benefit. If it doesn't happen that way, you just usually might only have to kill one, might not even have to kill both units. Always go for the soft targets first, guys. Remember that as an Ork player. When you're going for the one of these type of list, that they're an elite Space Marine player list, one, understand to not let them get the initiative on you, which is what using flying keyword, Mandos to lead the way, Gretchin to create the screens as well. All this stuff is to rely on the fact that you create the space so they can't get off on you with any other tricky Space Marine shenanigans. You're killing their soft targets, and then when it's time to go, they've already taken asset losses, and you're going to just come out with your most valuable units and innate the WAAAGH, pop off on them, still throw the rest of your trash into them, so that even if you don't finish them off, hold them in place with your trash so that you can get another round of shooting them and getting stuck in. So easier said than done, because it was a 12-point win right there. But shout out to our boy Dominic for doing so great with the Tactical Brigade. So if you guys want more details, let me know. But I just wanted to be a little quicker on these and get through that today with that list. But I'm very proud of Dominic because Tactical Brigade had been sleeping. Now it is a little bit of a, what people might say, yawn for seeing triple Tankbusters and triple Big Meks with Shokk Attack Guns. But he brought what was once only considered theoretical, and people hadn't actually been getting results with it, at least not that we had been observing regularly to any degree, with having 2 big bricks of Lootas to play the long lanes. Maybe theoretically he could swap out characters into those units if he felt like he needed them on those certain matchups, like we're seeing with the World Eaters possibly, but not necessarily, because then they can shoot the infantry with the Shokk Attack Gun, get blast from him, get the AP to really buzz all through them, and then maybe the tank busters on themselves would go into the Mauler Fiends, knowing that they don't have any defensive buffs and they're really riding the invuls. Maybe Shokk Attack Gun didn't need to be there. So there are the versatility there. And like I said, they were 10-man units, and he brought the Def Coptas, which I really like that he brought that. That would require the enemy to always bring out something that was just a bit more points than them and needed to be taken out a little bit more earlier, which is where I think Lootas came out to play, either to draw them to objectives or to draw them out to be getting shot up by the Lootas, and gave something for the Flash Gitz to also kind of get up and clean into before the enemy's big hitters came out to play to interact with the Flash Gitz, and then the Tank Busters busted out, or Tank Busters came out and Flash Gitz came out to play, depending on what the matchup was. So really like to see it. Like to see all this Def Copta madness and Def Copta love we've been getting. So keep in mind, always keep the initiative off you, and that's why you need fast units, need some space, and sometimes talking about Zod. And in this case, we talked about the fly keyword, and Def Copta is making it their way to play. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!